Giegerich is there breaking out the windows in my property, trying to break in on my daughter. I am so sick of him destroying my property. Please arrest him, and if I need to meet you out there, I will.
You sound like by breaking out the windows.
If he's out there breaking out the windows, he's broke my daughter's bedroom window right now.
Looks like the daughter's also calling in about it.
Okay, good.
All right, well, we got him on the way, okay?
All right, honey, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, bye-bye.
That was Debbie Collier's voice on a 911 call she made to the Athens Clarke County Police Department on May 12th of 2021 after her daughter, then 34-year-old Amanda Bearden, called her to say that her boyfriend, then 26-year-old Andrew Giegerich, had broken into her house in Athens, Georgia. Debbie, sounding more miffed than worried, dials 911 for Amanda. Did you hear how polite and sweet Debbie Collier sounds in this call? I know that's a Southern thing, but she sounds sincere. The other thing I noticed is how frustrated she is with Amanda's boyfriend, Andrew Giegerich. Hey guys, let me say welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T, and do me a favor, hit the like button. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Now let's dig in. Today, I want to paint a fuller picture of what happened on that day, May 12th of 2021, when Debbie Collier dialed 911, and when Amanda Bearden, her daughter, also dialed 911, but she dialed it 2 times, once at 8:58 in the morning, and a second time a few hours later at 11:57 a.m., just before noon. Amanda's first 911 call was to report that her on-again, off-again boyfriend, amateur MMA fighter Andrew Giegerich, had broken into her small studio apartment, caused property damage, stolen some items, and inflicted an injury on her. This is the same residence where she currently lives with Giegerich. That would be the multi-unit, 1-story brick dwelling that Debbie's husband, Steve Collier, owns. One officer from the Athens Clarke County Police Department responded to the call, Officer Blake Manning. Amanda's second 911 call at 11:57 a.m. was to report that Giegerich had returned to her residence and he'd broken a window. This is around the same time that Debbie Collier made that 911 call that you just heard. The same officer who had been to Amanda Bearden's residence earlier at 9 a.m. showed up again. That would be Blake Manning. Another officer, a female officer named Rebecca Croxton, also responded to the call. The 2 officers arrived in separate vehicles. I think these 911 calls and incidents are important in relationship to Debbie Collier's death because they illustrate some of the stressful situations that Debbie and Steve Collier were having to deal with because of Amanda Bearden and her toxic, sometimes violent relationship with Andrew Giegerich. This stuff went down just 1 year before Debbie's death. As I read these police reports, I felt a heavy weight of sadness for Debbie Collier. As a mother, Debbie must have wanted her daughter to grow up and become a stable and happy young woman with a good job and a kind, loving partner. What mother doesn't want all that for her kids? So these happenings must have felt like a knife to her heart. And watching Amanda evolve into a troubled, so-called adult had to feel like watching a train about to wreck in slow motion and being powerless to prevent it. The two 911 calls also provide a further window into Amanda and Andrew's personalities, of Amanda's tendency to lie and exaggerate, even to the police, and Andrew's tendency to respond to relationship problems with an explosive temper and his fists. We see this through the damage he did to Amanda's belongings and to Steve Collier's property, as well as through a painful-looking bruise on Amanda's right shoulder. Here's how the first incident unfolded, per the notes of the responding officer, Officer Blake Manning of the Athens-Clarke County Police Department. When Manning arrived at Amanda Bearden's apartment at 8:58 on the morning of May 12th, Debbie's daughter Amanda told him that her boyfriend, Andrew Giegerich, who she claimed was her ex-boyfriend at the time, was in her house when she arrived home. Amanda said that Giegerich had, and I quote, destroyed her home and stole things, end quote. Per Officer Manning, Amanda was crying, shaking, and visibly upset from the incident. Note that by the time Officer Manning arrived that morning, Andrew was already gone, having driven off in his blue Nissan Versa. Amanda told Officer Manning that she'd confronted Giegerich, and when she did, he grabbed her by the arm and moved her around the room. Manning wrote in his notes that he could see visible bruising on Amanda's right inner arm and a large bruise on her right shoulder. Amanda denied the offer of emergency services. She also told Officer Manning that Giegerich used to live with her, but that he'd moved out a month earlier. So that's important. She's telling the officer that Andrew Giegerich moved out the month before. Amanda also claimed that Giegerich did the following to the interiors of her home. 1. Put holes in the living room and bedroom walls at a tune of around $200 in damage. 2. Damaged 2 stand-up mirrors, breaking 1 mirror completely at a tune of $20. 3. Stole Victoria's Secret bras and underwear from her bedroom, as well as pants from her closet at a tune of around $250. And 4. Stole an Amazon Fire Stick from a TV in her bedroom to a tune of $40. Let me just interject here. You heard that right. Amanda claimed that Andrew went into her drawers, not the ones she was wearing, mind you, but rather the drawers of a dresser she had, and he stole her undergarments. Personally, I find that very creepy. The only times I've heard of people stealing other people's undies is A, when I sailed to Cuba many years ago and sent my clothes to the cleaners. When they came back, all my Calvin Klein underwear was gone. True story. Apparently, Calvin Klein underwear was something they could not buy in Cuba back then. And B, in true crime stories, when sicko burglars with weird fantasies break into homes in the neighborhood and steal all the female inhabitants' panties and bras. So why did Andrew steal Amanda's undies? Did he buy them for her? And was he looking to try and return them to the store? Sorry, Andrew, they don't take that type of thing back unless the tag's attached. We know money was tight. This is one of those things that makes you go, But let's get back to Officer Manning's notes, and I quote, I observed multiple holes in the wall of the living room. They appeared circular in shape. In her bedroom, there was a large break in the panel wall material. Bearden believes a workout weight was used to cause the damage. 2 broken mirrors were in her kitchen, leaning on the counter area. In her living room, Bearden showed me a handwritten note left on a notebook. She advised Giegerich wrote this before he left. The letter states, okay, let me interject here. I cannot read the entire note to you because it contains words that YouTube frowns upon. This is the note that was scrolled in green magic marker, wherein Andrew threatens to hurt Amanda and her family if they ever come near him. Back to what Officer Manning wrote. Bearden stated Giegerich used an old key he had to enter the home. She showed me a gold-colored key indicating that was the one used by Giegerich. He threw it back into the home when he left the scene. Bearden was already aware of the order of protection process and indicated she would seek one in reference to this incident. She was unable to provide an exact address for where Giegerich is staying now. She believes it is in the area of Stonehenge Way. Bearden stated she did not have a number for Giegerich, but she provided Giegerich's grandmother's information. Her name is, end quote. Let me interject here, guys. I'm not going to dox Andrew's grandmother, so that's why I'm saying X instead of her name and her address. Okay, let's go back to the report, and I quote, I was able to locate the grandmother from a prior call with an address of X, Stonehenge Way. I attempted to contact Andrew's grandmother 2 times and was unable to reach her. I contacted the number on Giegerich's jacket in our system, and it no longer works. I took pictures of the damaged items, note, and the physical marks on Bearden. These pictures will be placed in the T drive. Bearden also filled out a victim's statement form. This will be turned into records. At the time of this report, I've been unable to make contact with Giegerich. Giegerich will be deemed the predominant aggressor in this incident. End quote. So Officer Manning goes on to note that there's a history of physical altercations between Bearden and Giegerich. The officer also says that he's planning to seek warrants for Giegerich's arrest for burglary first degree, for laying his hands on Amanda, I can't say the word, so that's how I'm describing it, and for criminal trespass damage to property. Officer Manning also writes the following. Bearden stated that she will seek a temporary order of protection, or TPO, against Giegerich. There is not a current TPO or bond condition at this time. There has been a prior bond condition for Giegerich to stay away from Bearden, but this is no longer active. End quote. Note that Officer Manning's behavior and conversations on the scene were recorded by his body camera. The victim's statement that Amanda filled out on that same day says this, and I quote, I was at my mom's and came home to find my house had been destroyed. As I'm cleaning up my house, he comes back in and grabs me, throwing my key at me that I thought I had lost, a spare key. He accused me of some stuff, yelling and screaming at me. I got him to leave and called the police, end quote. So at this point, Officer Manning believes that Andrew Giegerich was the aggressor in this incident and that Giegerich broke into Amanda's apartment. So now let's move on to Amanda's second 911 call at 11:57 a.m., so just before noon on the very same day, May 12th of 2021, just last year. Officer Manning comes back to Amanda's residence. Officer Rebecca Croxton arrives in a separate squad car. Both officers take notes about the incident, and I have to say it's very interesting to see how each one described the events. According to Officer Croxton's report, She arrives on scene to find Officer Manning standing on the porch speaking to Amanda. Manning wrote in his notes that Bearden told him Giegerich had returned to her house and broken her bedroom window. And Officer Manning does observe that the window is indeed broken. He also notices a fold-up chair on the ground under the window. It sounds like Andrew, who's not very tall, stepped onto the chair to climb through the window. As Officer Manning was talking to Amanda, a vehicle pulls up. Bearden tells Manning that it's Andrew's grandmother. Around the same time, Amanda's stepfather, Steve Collier, also pulls up in his red F-250 truck. By now, this incident sounds like a family gathering, but not a nice one. You can clearly see why Amanda has said Andrew's grandmother hates her, and why Andrew has said Debbie Collier didn't like him. Officer Manning then speaks to Andrew's grandmother, and she tells the officer that she doesn't know where her grandson is, and that, to her knowledge, Andrew still lives with Amanda Bearden at that residence on Tallahassee Road. She also says that on occasions when Amanda kicks Andrew out of the apartment, he then goes to her house, Grandma's house, in Stonehenge for refuge. Sounds like this is a regular occurrence. When Officer Manning asks Grandma if she has Andrew's phone number, she tells him that Andrew broke his phone a few weeks earlier and he does not have a phone number. Let me interject here that this phone bit hints at Andrew maybe not having enough money to replace his broken phone. Money troubles seem to plague Amanda Bearden and Andrew Giegerich. But then again, a lot of us can probably relate to money troubles as well. When Officer Manning speaks to Steve Collier, Steve tells him that he'd seen Amanda and Andrew in different vehicles in front of his, meaning Steve and Debbie's, house earlier that day. At this point, Officer Manning is starting to realize that Amanda Bearden lied to him when she told him that she'd had no contact with Andrew Giegerich recently. Both Steve Collier and Andrew's grandmother are telling Officer Manning that Andrew currently lives with Amanda in that residence. After that brief conversation, Andrew's grandmother leaves the scene and drives off. Officers Manning and Croxton then ask Steve Collier to wait in his truck. Manning and Croxton then confront Amanda Bearden about what her stepfather and Andrew's grandmother have just told them about Andrew living with her. Here's what Officer Manning wrote about Amanda's response. She sighed and put her hands to her face, advising she didn't lie to me. She admitted speaking to Giegerich on May 11th. However, she originally advised that it had been weeks since they last spoke. Bearden stated on this date Giegerich followed her to her mom's home, proving he had been at her address on the morning of this date. She advised he had been staying at this location for roughly a week and changed stories again, saying he had only been there for a few hours. She originally stated he had lived at this location for the past month. However, Bearden admitted he has actually been staying with her on and off for the past month, and at times will stay for multiple days. This is completely different than what Bearden originally told me and what my probable cause was based off of for the charge of burglary. My conclusion is that Giegerich has residency at this location." End quote. In her notes, Officer Rebecca Croxton writes that Amanda became defensive when confronted and started crying. Croxton also notes that there were visible marks to the inside of her right forearm that were red and puffy. The centers were purple. Croxton wrote that when she confronted Amanda, Amanda said that she'd gotten confused earlier in the morning and was confused by the questions. Croxton writes, and I quote, "I asked her what confused her about whether or not her boyfriend lived there, and she got more upset," end quote. So Amanda's not liking that she's been caught in a lie. Suddenly, she is not purely the victim in the situation, she's also a perpetrator in that she lied to the police. The officers then speak in private and decide to arrest Andrew Giegerich for laying his hands on Amanda and for criminal trespass for breaking the window and the other damage. And they also agree to arrest Amanda Bearden for false reporting of a crime. So Amanda is placed in handcuffs as her stepfather, Steve Collier, watches from his truck, and she's placed in Officer Croxton's patrol car. Here's what that officer wrote about those moments, and I quote, "As soon as the handcuffs were placed on her, she immediately started crying and screaming obscenities at us. She yelled at me on and off all the way to jail. Effing cop. And how she was the one reporting the crime, so we had to be nice to her. When I tried to explain that she had lied and that it was her responsibility to be honest when she called the police, she just talked over me," end quote. I find Amanda's behavior and reactions so telling. The officers are not dealing with a mature 34-year-old woman. Instead, they're having to sort through the antics of an immature person who has no problem lying to the cops and who resorts to calling an officer nasty names. On the other hand, if you look at Amanda's face in the photos from this incident, which I'm including in the video, you can see anguish. The interior shots of Amanda's apartment also spell someone who isn't overly concerned about cleanliness and order. This is interesting because Amanda told the police after her mother disappeared on September 10th of 2022 that she and her mom went to buy cleaning supplies, presumably to tidy up her apartment, which she had moved back into 2 days before Debbie Collier was reported missing. As I close this video out, I'm going to include the video taken of Andrew Giegerich on that May 12th day in 2021. Note how he claims that the window to Amanda's bedroom got broken on another day or in another situation. So Andrew, if indeed he did break the window on May 12th, is also not afraid to lie to the police. So we've got two people who are very quick to lie to the cops without any fear of getting shackled and taken to jail. Hey, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, leave me a comment. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. And I want to make a special shout out to the people who've joined my memberships and Patreon. I cannot thank you enough for your support. I could not do this without it.
Taking money from my card, and that's the only reason we've had any contact, because every week she takes $500 or $600 from my check, and I just don't see how that's right. And she goes and does dope with my money. Like I've made over $30,000-$40,000 this year, and I'm completely broke because she spends it all on drugs. And there's clothes in the house that is mine. If So, could you tell me what happened when you came over here this morning? I asked for my clothes, and she said I needed to leave. I just got here. I haven't done anything wrong. That window's been broke. Can I just leave if she's not going to give me my stuff? I really haven't. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on because, beating on somebody's door this early causing scene. I understand. Like stuff's been stolen or whatever. She said to not ring the doorbell for the cat. I just knocked on the door a couple times. I haven't done anything that they're saying. I mean, they've already made false charges against me before. So y'all were talking through the door at each other? But I mean, if she wants me to leave, I'll leave. I didn't know. All right, man. Can I just go?
Just stand by with me so he can talk to her. What's your name?
Andrew
Giegerich.
I just want to be done with her. I mean,
Have y'all
she's been cheating on me. She's been doing drugs. I've never done any drugs in my life.
have y'all had police involved before in y'all's business?
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to get my money back because we're not supposed to have contact, but she's taking $500 each check.
Why aren't y'all supposed to have contact, Andrew?
Because
Is there like a court order?
I guess so. I don't know. I went to court a while back, but
Did you get arrested?
I've been arrested before. The last time I got arrested was because they falsified whatever. I mean, her mom, dude, I don't know what the issue is here. I don't know why I'm so unliked. This girl got hit by a car, and I've taken care of her. I don't know what the problem is.
Let's get in the shade.
I
Over
would
here.
just like to, I work hard.
Where do you work at?
Williams-Sonoma.
Williams-Sonoma.
Robinson.
Okay.
I just want to know why it's okay for her to steal $600 a week from me, and I can't do anything about it.
It's not okay. So we're here now, so maybe
Because
we
last
can
time I
help
went
out.
to court, I mentioned that, and
What'd they say?
I mean, well, they pushed it back till another day. So like,
How does she have access to your money?
well, long story short, when we were together, my phone broke. Long story short, I mean, she's manipulated me into all the where she could have all my money, basically do whatever she wants to me, kick me out whenever she wants, basically just do whatever. And it's okay because I'm a man. There's nothing I can do about it, like other than just let her do it or leave.
But how does she? I'm asking.
Well,
How
long
does
story
she-
short, I didn't have a phone
Uh-huh.
because my phone broke. So this is the dumbest mistake I've ever. We linked our cards together so she can send herself money from my card. But so, I mean, the first person to touch my money is her, and it's usually $500 or $600.
Where do you work? So how do you get paid through your job?
Well, I just recently switched it to a paper check, so she couldn't do that, and
Okay. So you kind of took care of that problem.
yeah, but I mean, it's still $4,000 that.
You know you got to go to court for something like that. If she's not willing to give you the money back, you got to take her to court, a civil court, because y'all live together. So it's a civil issue.
Well, we don't live together anymore.
Y'all did though.
Okay.
So
I'm
since y'all.
just trying to figure out because I've told her like, hey, don't take any